Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. I'm Caroline HEWARD and I'm your host this evening on A Woman's Prerogative Part 2. We had a wonderful show earlier on, A Woman's Prerogative Part 1, and this is our second instalment this evening. We are live at 9 p.m. British Summer Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. A warm welcome to our viewers that are loyal and our new friends over on E360 TV. And also a very warm welcome to all of our new viewers across ROKU worldwide, Amazon Fire, as well as our usual social media channels, YouTube, X and Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and a very, very warm welcome to all of the people that are here today on the live and watching on the replay. We are here today with A Woman's Prerogative in partnership with E360 TV. As if you've joined the show before, you may be aware that I'm not here alone. I'm with a wonderful other panelist, an expert panelist all the way from New Zealand, who is the coach extraordinaire with so many qualifications. I couldn't even tell you what they are, and so much expertise in worldwide clientele and partnerships. I look forward to this discussion. Our topic tonight is a very interesting one. It is breaking barriers, women in politics leading the way. And we had such an inspiring and a very, very engaging conversation about this topic in our part 1. I'm looking forward to our conversation in part 2. So without further ado, let's bring on our warmed, esteemed expert panelist, the coach extraordinaire, MARISKA de PREEZ. I almost forgot your name. I was giving all the pump from the ceremony, and then I almost forgot your name.
MARISKA. Hey, all good. It happens to all of us at some point.
Before we get going, MARISKA, and if you can stifle the laughter, could you share with our viewers a little bit about what you do, and then we can get straight into the topic.
Okay. Well, it's always good to start with a little bit of laughter in our day, and it is very early for me, so it is a good start to my day. Thank you for that, Caroline. I work with both experts that moves into leadership as well as leaders moving up within their leadership journey. And for a lot of us, when we go and start our initial career, we study something. This might be engineering or being a lawyer or doctor, whatever it might be for you. And then we move up into some form of leadership space. Now, navigating that can be very tricky, as well as navigating going up within that leadership space, because as we step up into different areas of leadership and looking at the bigger pictures, it becomes a little bit more tricky, dynamic, and we need to change the way that we interact and bring things into the world in order for them to actually happen. And this is what I help you guys with. So that is me in a sort of nutshell. How about you, Caroline?
Thank you, Mariska. Well, I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, as well as your host for tonight's show. And I help people literally bust their stress. How do I do that? I work with root cause therapy and chakra psychology, and I have umpteen other qualifications in terms of counseling and other types of therapy work, energy healing. And I literally break through the chains that are creating the repeating patterns that are causing your physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral stress. You might be walking around saying, I'm not stressed, but then you're complaining you're not sleeping, or you've got low back pain, or you're complaining about the relationship that you're in, or somebody at work that's really irritating you. That is how your stress is manifesting. And I look forward to helping you bust your stress. So without further ado, and just literally before we get in, I've got something very exciting to share. We are on a mission. We are on an absolute mission to create and rise our subscribers. And we are looking to raise our subscribers to 100,000 subscribers. That's unique subscribers. We have 2 channels. That's USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck as well. So do subscribe, because you will miss out if you're not subscribing. You won't get the alerts. And when we break through that, it will mean that we reach more people and help more people and offer more people our hope, inspiration, education, and of course, our entertainment. Also, with that, there is also a VIP exclusive community. And I think this is really exciting. This new community is the Royal from London, the Royal, I'm just trying to see this, sorry, from London, and it's USA Global TV, YouTube, radio streamed live. Join the VIP community. If you subscribe now, you'll actually be the first in line to get what's going on in our royalty in London. So now we get into the topic, breaking barriers, women in politics leading the way. When I first saw that topic, I have to confess it kind of really scared me a little, because in the UK, there isn't many women in government positions. There certainly hasn't been many women in the UK that has led big roles in government, and I can only think of one in particular that made a difference, and she actually ruled in a very masculine way, and that was Margaret Thatcher. So I'm very interested, because backstage, what I want to share with you, we had a little conversation in chat backstage, and Mariska enlightened me that there is a lot of women in politics in her side of the world. So I'm very interested to hear about what happens in New Zealand and that part of the world, because it'll be very interesting to know how the other side of the Western world, like the Americans and the UK in particular, can actually take a leaf out of your book. So Mariska, I just want to, before we kind of get into those people and what's special about where you are, when you're thinking about breaking barriers, I'm looking at and thinking about the skills that women bring to the political environment. What are your thoughts in terms of what skills would a woman bring that may not be so relevant or prevalent in the masculine world of politics? Over to you, Mariska.
Caroline, that is a really interesting question. As you were formulating the question and as I heard it, one of the things that came up for me is possibly that we need to redesign our system. And the reason why I say that is the system served us in a certain way for quite a long time. And now is a very good opportunity to relook at it and see whether it really serves us still or not. And the the reason why I'm saying rather redesign is because one of the things that I'm reading a very fascinating book about extending our minds. And one of the elements within that book that they discuss is how space, physical space, so the buildings in which we live, the places where we go to the office, the environments in which we interact, change the way we think. It also has a very big impact on the type of biases that we have. So, to give you an example, say for instance, I go into a classroom and the classroom is decorated with pictures of nature. There's different pictures of different ethnicities within that space. And it feels really inclusive for a wide variety of different people. Versus going into, for instance, a classroom where we have a Star Wars theme, right? We have a whole bunch of Star Wars things on the walls. You see a lot of the spaceships and things like that. So if you were to study something related to engineering, now they actually did a study on this research, and they found that in the classroom where the participants were asked how likely they would be to actually study this topic, they found that in the Star Wars themed environment, they had more males that actually said, yeah, this is something that I want to study. In the neutral, more wide, inclusive environment, they had more females say that they would like to study that subject, exactly the same subject. So it just indicates how much our environment actually impacts whether we will even think about being able to do something or not. And
that's fascinating. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm just like sort of, I wanted to say that's absolutely incredible, that study. And thank you for sharing that. Sorry, please continue.
And that's why when you asked me the question, that's what came to mind for me. It's okay, if we really looked at the government buildings we have, right? How much, when we go into it, do we feel included? How much does women feel included? How much does the other people in our country feel included in that environment? And if they don't, the likelihood of them actually going, you know what, yep, I'll put my hand up and step into that space is already reduced. And now I need to show up, as Margaret Thatcher was evidently a good example, in quite a different way than typically I might show up in a different environment. So skills, I don't know whether it's a skill that we need to learn. So
that's absolutely fascinating. And what I do want to share with you on that particular aspect of environment is that the structures, certainly in the Western world, were created when women were at home. They were the homemakers, and they were the ones that were caring for the children, and the men went to work. And essentially what happened was the corporate structures were created by men, and the boardrooms were created for men. And that's something that I have studied in my time and know of this. And that's why it was very difficult for women to get into the boardroom and to get into politics, because it was ruled by men when it first began. So this is fascinating in terms of the correlation that you've come up with in terms of environment, because the environments are very masculine structures, and there isn't very many soft curves, and it is very much more when you walk in as a woman, you're walking into a masculine hierarchical structure, which makes it very difficult for the feminine energy to perform at her best in terms of the feminine traits. So yes, I'd really quite agree with what you're saying there and endorse it with some of my own research too. So moving on to looking at the women in politics, I know that you have some things to share in terms of what's happening in your side of the world, which is very different from my side of the world. So please do share what your experience is in New Zealand and in those parts of the world in terms of how women are succeeding in politics.
Carol, well, one of the things that you might know is that we had a female prime minister not so long ago. So there is a lot of, I won't say majority women within the political space, but we do have women within the political space. One of the things that New Zealand are very proud of is the fact that we were also one of the very first countries to give women the right to vote. So as a country, we try to be very progressive within that space. Is it easy? No. And some of it is partially because of the structures in which we live, the environment, and we are still working on how to move all of these things around. And to give you a little bit of a story around this, and it's very interesting thinking about politics, and that's maybe another reason why I think redesigning it is one of the things that's more needed than upskilling ourselves to fit into a block that might not even be serving us, is one of the ladies that I personally know worked within the local government structure within Invercargill. So she worked in that space for, I think it was around about 3 years. I'm talking under correction, yeah? And within that time, there was quite a few things that she noticed, and she noticed that the system wasn't quite working the way that she initially thought. And the things that she wanted to bring into that space didn't quite work the way that she thought it would work. So she ended up leaving politics because of not necessarily seeing the type of results that she was after within the system. And that again brings me back to the possibly we need to redesign it. There's literally nothing stopping us from redesigning something that doesn't work. We just need to decide to do it. So that was her specific experience within that space. And I have also seen that coming from a engineering background myself, even within the engineering space, you find that there is ladies that go into that space, which is typically a little bit more male dominant, depending on which type of engineering you go into, of course. And there's not necessarily a lot of them that stays the course and sort of go to the highest level. You do have some, and not always a lot of them. And most of it is because of the biases that we come across. And a lot of the biases we come across because of the environments that we are in. So there is still a lot of work to do within that space. And I know that New Zealand was not the only country with a female prime minister. And also there is a lot of, because of the biases that we as a society have, a lot of ridicule that I think ladies has to contend with, that typically the male counterpart might not need to. I recall reading an article of those two prime ministers actually getting together at some point and having a conversation. And somebody had a comment around whether they are trying to establish a new boys' club. And I'm like, why would they even go into that space? It doesn't make sense. I mean, getting support makes sense. So it's there's a lot of things that I think as a species, as humans, and as society within our different spaces, we need to heal and work through in order for us to be able to redesign a system that will, in all likelihood, include a lot more of us in it, and not only certain pieces of us, so that we can get a more comprehensive and balanced space in which we all can live and work. Caroline, and I don't know whether that answered your question or not.
It's a lovely segue into me talking about a woman that was looking at the gender gap and looking at all the things that you've just described. And when I was doing my research, she actually was feeling all the things that you've just described, not being taken seriously, that, sort of there's biases against the women for various things. There's the fact that there is sexual harassment for women, and that is very prevalent. It's not under the carpet. It's very much there. When women come out, there's a lot of controversy about it, but it's definitely going on. And so this particular lady called Medra Reddy, she's the CEO and founder of a company called Leading Women of Tomorrow. And I thought, well, this is very interesting. And it's very much in the States. What she's done is she's set up campuses all across the US in the different areas of the United States of America. And she's got campuses in colleges and in universities. And she's looking at the very thing that you've just been talking about that's missing. Because what she wanted to do, she wanted to get into politics, and people were laughing at her, telling her that she was really stupid and that they wouldn't take her seriously and she doesn't have what it takes. And she was very much disenchanted with everything that she was being given as feedback, as what she thought would be an opportunity, because she felt that it was important to make a difference. And why not make a difference to her community and to her world by getting into politics and into governance? But what happened was, when she tried to, she wasn't met with what she thought would be a possibility. And so she set up this organization, Leading Women of Tomorrow, by going into university and college campuses and going in and creating that environment for the young girls and young women. And I thought that was, especially as what you just said about the, sort of the different classrooms and how they were decorated and what, it's just perfect. And she's got mainly, sort of women. Obviously, if there's anybody else that wants to come in, that isn't a woman, I think that she would be there in terms of, giving them skills. But essentially, she's equipping the women with the skills that are required in order to be able to combat the inadequacies of what they will experience in today's political world. And so the skills are collaborative that she's demonstrating, giving them confidence, because this was a big thing that was identified, that women were afraid. They didn't have the confidence and the self-esteem to go in against the male counterparts. But taking them and delivering this training in campuses, getting them very young to see that there is potential, there is opportunities, educating them right at the beginning. And she was actually awarded by the UN for, I'm just going to read this, awarded the Resolution Fellowship in 2017 by the UN Youth Academy for working with colleges and university campuses. And I thought that was great. That was something that I didn't know about. And they're also in Florida, where our wonderful, esteemed Dr. Jacalyn is. And I thought, there's more going on than we realize. It is very much an American-based organization, but I thought that there is something happening And it is, oh, right. Dr. Jack is going woo woo. Absolutely. You know, I was woo hooing as well when I saw it, because I thought, well, we discussed in part one that that America was very behind, that there is very little women in governance and in the mainstream politics. And if they are, they're being not taken very seriously. And so this, I thought, was amazing. And I was very inspired by finding this bit of research. And I wanted to share it because it's exactly what you've been talking about. Exactly. What are your thoughts on what I've just shared?
I love the fact that there are places in this world where the light is starting to blossom. And it's those, it reminds me of a dandelion when it goes into seed. And I don't know whether you did it when you were little, but you'll blow on the seeds and they'll go everywhere, right? And that's what this feels like. It feels like she has a little dandelion farm, and all the people that goes there is the little seeds, and then they distribute all over the place. So it might take a little while to have dandelion fields, and it is in the process. So the more we can do that, the more we can bring that into our environment, into our cultures, I think that more likely we will be to redesign the system in order for it to be able to work for everyone. Because, well, technically speaking, I know there's a lot of people that complain about it, which means it's not really working. And just complaining about it, yeah, well, we can do that, but we can also do something about it. And she is taking a step to do something about it. We are taking a step by talking about it to do something about it, bringing it into the light and going, you know what? No, it's not okay. It's not okay for it to be swept under the rug and for women to be said to go outside and sit in the corner because our brains will explode when we think too much. It does not happen. So we are okay. Nobody's brains will explode. They'll be fine.
Well, I also have something else to share in my research, because I'm a little bit of a research bod. You can tell that my background in marketing is coming to the fore. I also found a UK organisation too, and it's called the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. Yeah, too right. Short for WFD. So I'm really glad that we did this subject, because it made me look, and it made me not feel so despondent. And they're actually a UK-based public body, but they're in over 30 countries and territories. So they are a global organization, and they are doing exactly the same thing. They are in the place of educating people, strategizing in terms of strengthening democracy. They are in all the political fields in terms of speaking to political speakers and educators, and they're also making a mark and actually making this part of the governance so that it brings it up on their agenda. And I found it really, really fascinating that the UK had one too, and they're approaching it from a slightly different place, you know, sort of where they're older, and going into the countries and actually meeting it where it stands in terms of the arenas of the politicians and the governments and the territories. And because it's in 30 countries, over 30 countries and territories, I just thought, wow, I didn't know that. And so I felt it was important to share something like this, because, you know, if I didn't know, you didn't know, and we're only seeing what we see behind the scenes, that the people that we were running down in part one, saying that the UK and America have a long way to go, there are things happening. There are organizations that are doing something about this, and they're being recognized and being endorsed, and they are already infiltrating into our governments that are already operating. What do you say about that?
See? Dandelion fields. This is so good. it shows that when we do have that desire to change it, we are able to change it. Will it change overnight? Most probably not. Rome was not built in a day. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't built. It just took a wee while. So we are always able to change the environment in which we are operating in. And it's wonderful to hear that people in these spaces are doing exactly that. And as you said, Caroline, a lot of times, because we don't focus on it, we don't see it, we don't go and research it, we don't wonder about it necessarily in our day-to-day life. For most people, they just want to get through whatever the day is and go home and relax. So they don't necessarily look into these things. And that is why we have wonderful Dr. Jacalyn to help us along with interesting topics in order for us to dig into them and find out a little bit more.
Well, one of the things that came out in part one of A Woman's Prerogative in this subject is that the third world countries, the countries that we think are, very behind, are actually very, very ahead in this agenda. There is a lot more women because they had to, and it's more accepted. And so that really surprised me. I didn't actually realize that. I thought that it was still very male dominated. And I was pleasantly surprised and pleased to hear that there was much more of a foraging of women in political power and in key positions in governance. And I thought, well, what we've got to do is make the Western world come to meet the poorer countries, because they seem to have it right. And one of the things that came up was collaboration. And these are the skills. This is the woman's skills that definitely lend a hand into making a difference and making a change. And I feel that, from the masculine perspective, there is less thought of collaboration than there is when you have women at the top, because they will see they think of the team and they think of the different skill areas. What are your thoughts about women bringing a different perspective in terms of collaboration and cohesiveness?
I think that within the collaborative space and even within the different energies, women bring a different way of being into a space, and we do need both. So it reminds me a little bit of our active learning cycle. So in an active learning cycle, you have the think it through piece, then you have the plan, then you have the do, and then you have a reflection piece so that you can see whatever you did actually works, and then you go back to thinking about how you want to do it. Now, typically as individuals, we find that we are better at some of these areas. And if we were to look at the male and female energy, combined, we are one energy, and we bring all the pieces that we need. But if we only do one or the other, we will too heavily rely on one piece. Now, when I think male energy, for some odd reason, I think doing, which is great, right? Because we want to be able to do a whole bunch of things. And I'm not saying that women can't do stuff, because they do stuff. And when I think about male energy, I don't necessarily think about harmonious collaboration and coexisting. It doesn't necessarily come up. Whereas when I think about female energy, that is more the feeling that does come up. And the fun thing is we have both of them within ourselves, and we also have both of them within society. So being able to bring more of both of these into our spaces, I think, is something that is very important. So we don't want to lose the male energy, and we also want to add the female energy so that we have 100% of each of them, instead of having it lopsided to one side or the other. And that, to me, I think, is something that we are starting to see within different spaces. And the more we nurture it, the more it will happen. So keep nurturing it. What's your thoughts, Caroline?
Well, I quite agree with you there, that it is about, we need both. It's not about one. We need the two sides. It's the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. And it's absolutely vital. If we don't have both, then it falls apart. But I did want to bring up one more environment, one more organization, because when I started, I was on a bit of a roll. And this organization is called the Yale Campaign School. And this particular person that's running it, Patricia Russo, she was interviewed by Fox. And she offers a 5-day boot camp, a very intensive 5-day boot camp. And essentially, she's then looking at all the situations and all the things that the person needs to compete in the political environment. So she's teaching and mentoring and also offering tools to help not only newcomers coming in to the political environment, also people that have already been there that hadn't realized some of the stones and some of the things that they would have to overcome, and offering teaching and mentoring to people that are already in the political environment, as well as new people and people if they want to brush up on anything in terms of their elections. We are in election time right now across the UK and in America. And it is a boys' network where, it is a door-to-door, a trudging. And this is where it can affect a woman in terms of sexual harassment, violence. It can affect them in terms of how they raise funds, because men are much more equipped because there is an old boys network to raise the funds. And for women, this 5-day boot camp actually teaches them how and where to find how to raise funds. And I just thought this was absolutely staggeringly, interestingly, fascinatingly amazing, because there is something going on that is breaking down the barriers, literally breaking down the barriers and foraging, literally spearheading our women to leading the way in politics. What do you think about what I've just shared there in terms of this 5-day boot camp that you can actually be part of, even if you're already in there and struggling?
Caroline, it is a wonderful resource, I think, for people that would like to go within that space. And as you were talking about the boot camp, the one thing that came up for me again was we are preparing people to go into a system that isn't working. Is that really what we want to be doing? Or do we need to re-look at our system so it works properly? So maybe that might be something for these different dandelion farms to think about, and see how we can change the system from within and start to make it something that is more inclusive and belonging for everyone, and not only certain people, races, spaces, whatever it might be, but really having a human experience for all humans, not only some.
I so agree with you. And I feel that you have to get the women there to begin with. And when you've got the women there, that's when change can happen. It almost needs to go in synchronicity with, sort of getting the women in there in the beginning, rather than changing the environment. We've got to kind of get into the political arena and to be taken seriously, so that there are the higher levels of governance that the women can take. And the West has got to catch up with the Eastern world. I do. I think that we've come a long way in terms of the Western world and technology and the way that we live, our infrastructure. And yet, this subject, this particular topic, makes me realize we have such a long way to go as human beings to really fully embrace that collaborative nature of working together. And we are pretty much out of time. Can you believe that? It's gone so quickly. I know, and I wasn't sure if we'd fill this time. But thank you. It's just been an extraordinary exploration, and always a pleasure to have you on the panel and to hear what's going on in your part of the world, in New Zealand. It makes me realise the UK has a long, long way to go to actually start spearheading what you're doing in your part of the world. So very quickly for our viewers, Mariska, please do share how people can contact you, the best way to contact you, and then we'll move over to our sponsors.
So if you are a specialist moving into leadership or a leader already in that space and you want to upskill yourself so that you can also bring your team along and create that wonderful vision that you have in mind, you can contact me via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively connect via LinkedIn and we can start our conversation there.
Thank you, Mariska. And for me, you can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call me if you're international, +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. And I'm looking forward to helping you bust your stress. Well, I've been your host tonight for A Woman's Prerogative Part 2 in partnership with E360 TV. We have 2 shows of A Woman's Prerogative every Monday, one at 7 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and one at 9 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We have run the show slightly later today, and we apologise if you have missed part of it. Do catch us on the replay, and thank you very much for joining us on the live and for joining us on the replay if you're here on the replay. It's been an absolute pleasure. Do remember to subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio and Jacalyn Kerbeck. We have 2 channels for you to subscribe to, and let's complete our mission for 100,000 subscribers so we can share the great work with more people and change what we have in terms of our challenges on this planet today. And I look forward to seeing you at the same time next week on Monday. And now over to our sponsors.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting The Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com. ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.